Hello, my name is Larissa Bayet with Saskatchewan Blue Cross, and I'm pleased to connect with you virtually here today and provide you with further insight into what's happening in the travel environment, questions you need to be asking specifically as it relates to your travel insurance, and what you need to know really about traveling in a pandemic environment these days. I'll be sharing some frequently asked questions as it relates to travel insurance more specifically, and also providing you some really clear insight on how these questions apply to Saskatchewan Blue Cross's standalone travel products specifically. Now, if there's one thing we can take away from the last 19 months or so, is that information is subject to change, and it can and does quickly, as we've witnessed over the last several weeks. Now, full disclaimer, the information shared with you here today is current as of today's recording, which is November 3rd, 2021. So I do highly encourage you to leverage the resources and experts that are available to you. This includes a couple trusted resources that I'll be sharing and alluding to throughout today's presentation, but also keep in mind the individuals within your communities who can further support your questions and inquiries, such as travel agents and your trusted insurance broker. With several countries reopening their borders, travel has really become top of mind for Canadians once again as we enter the 2021 travel season. Now, starting on November 8th, the United States will be reopening its land and sea border to non-essential, fully vaccinated Canadian travelers. Now, the land border reopening means that Canadians can now drive into the United States to visit family, take a day trip, and snowbirds will be able to cross the border with their vehicles, RVs, trailers alike to their winter homes. Now, this is something that has been open to American travelers since August 9th of this year. However, we haven't seen the land or sea border open since the onset of the pandemic in March of 2020. Now, it's important to note that when you are entering the United States via the land or sea border crossing, there actually isn't going to be any PCR test required prior to entry into the United States. However, you will be required to be a fully vaccinated traveler. Now, air travel to the United States has been allowed for quite some time with certain conditions. So regardless of how long your trip is going to be to the United States, if you are traveling by air, you are going to be required to produce a negative PCR test 72 hours prior to entry. And now when you're re-entering Canada, the Government of Canada's travel rules and restrictions have remained unchanged for Canadians who are entering back into the country from the United States or really any other country at this time. Canadians do need to provide a negative PCR test to travel back to Canada, and that does need to be negative within the 72 hours coming back to Canada. Now, what that means is that in order to get back to Canada, whether you've crossed the border for a couple of hours or a couple of days, you are going to be required to produce that negative test. So it is important to keep in mind that with each travel destination, wherever you're going to, I know we are speaking to the US here because that is something that is popular amongst our snowbird population. However, each destination is unique in its requirements, whether that's entry requirements or the vaccines required. So do make sure you are contacting or visiting the country's embassy to which you are traveling to for more frequent updated information. Now, if you do want to board a plane or leave travel in Canada, as of November 30th, you are going to be required to produce a vaccine passport. So there is a bit of a grace period going on right now until November 30th to allow those who are in the process of becoming fully vaccinated the opportunity to do so. Now, if after November 30th you are not fully vaccinated, you will be limited to travel options by air and even by train, really any federal transportation methods. There is going to be some further restrictions that come into place or some eligibility requirements. And the federal government is really picking up the expense of implementing and utilizing ArriveCan, which is an app. So all travelers are highly encouraged to have a smartphone. And through this app, you're going to be required to show your pre-entry molecular test. Those who are fully vaccinated would be exempt from quarantine provided they have a negative test and are not symptomatic, and will be exempt from 8-day testing required upon entry Even though the federal government of Canada has lifted the level 3 global advisory on travel restrictions outside of Canada, specific country and regional advisories do still remain. Those advisories are often posted as avoid non-essential travel or avoid all travel advisories. Travel advisories limiting or not extending coverage to a country or region where travel advisories are posted is very common amongst travel insurance. So ask the question to your travel insurance advisor, carrier, or broker, does my policy extend coverage in a country or region that is currently under a level 3 or 4 advisory? Now, we do see advisories like these still applied to specific locations such as the Republic of Congo, Afghanistan, or Iraq, where there may be war or a highly unstable political environment. Always review the limitations and exclusions of your travel policy and ask how these level 3 or 4 advisories would apply. Now, with Saskatchewan Blue Cross travel plans, we do not exclude travel to destinations with a level 3 or level 4 advisory, and will extend emergency medical care coverage in these situations with specifically our standalone travel products. However, if a claim is incurred due to the nature of the advisory posted, example, war, this would be a known risk while you're traveling to that specific region or country, and it would not be covered if a claim was to incur and was in relation to, say, that war. However, if you incurred a claim for something unrelated, like you fell and broke your leg, coverage would extend subject to the terms of the policy. Always make sure you're staying informed about COVID-19 activity at your destination, or really any activity at your destination which would be high risk, and which can, vary significantly and change quickly from one country to another. So do always make sure you're staying current with those advisories at travel.gc.ca. Let's going to look into questions that are noted here, such as vaccination status, not only when you're looking to travel to a country or a specific region, but how it relates to your travel insurance as well. Unlike the start of the pandemic, insurance companies are now offering COVID-19 specific travel insurance for medical expenses, including quarantine after a positive test result. So in many instances, it's found that this is dependent on the vaccination status of the traveler. So ask the questions, is full vaccination status an eligibility requirement or a purchase requirement for my travel insurance? Or is a negative PCR test an eligibility requirement? Although Saskatchewan Blue Cross does not require vaccination status or for you to present a negative PCR test prior to travel, do keep in mind that each country may have specific vaccination requirements or require you to produce a negative test result upon entry. If and how COVID-19 is covered varies from insurance carrier to insurance carrier. Many travel insurance carriers are offering COVID-19 as an add-on benefit or a rider, which would be available for an additional premium. And this is oftentimes subject to eligibility to purchase, or is only permitted if you are fully vaccinated. Now, with Saskatchewan Blue Cross, you will not find any specific wording about COVID-19 or any add-on benefits within our policy booklets. Because COVID-19 is simply considered an illness under the terms of the policy, we don't charge any additional premium, and coverage remains the same premiums and rates. They have not increased due to the COVID-19 environment. So if you do find, if you're looking through your travel policy booklet and there's no specific policy wording pertaining to COVID-19, it is wise to contact your trusted broker or carrier directly to confirm and provide an overview of if and how COVID-19 is covered subject to the terms of the policy. This is important information you need to know should you fall ill or incur a claim on your trip. You will want to educate yourself on the benefits covered in regards to a positive COVID-19 diagnosis and any benefits or policy maximums that do apply. Now, there are other carriers in the market that may provide coverage, but limit benefits payable in regards to COVID-19, including hospitalization. For example, there may be a maximum applied on COVID-19 related expenses to a maximum of $200,000 or $500,000. Now, consider this. The average night stay in a hospital in the United States costs around $10,000. So if you were to be hospitalized with COVID-19, the average hospital stay for a COVID-19 patient is actually over 3 weeks, 22.8 days to be exact. So even if you were to be in hospital for 20 days, you see you could easily hit that $200,000 maximum, 10,000 times 20 days, which would now make you responsible for any additional COVID-19 related expenses out of your own pocket or savings. Now, also consider this. If you were to be in critical condition and your insurer determined that you needed to be repatriated back to your province of residence to continue to receive care, this is yet another costly out-of-pocket expense that is going to require you to take immediate action. So even if your COVID-19 add-on package had a maximum of $500,000, $500,000, consider the costs associated and how this can really start to accumulate very quickly. There's the cost of the repatriation back to your province of residence, cost of attending medical teams and care, pets, baggage, and family members who do need to return at the same time as you. Not to mention the expenses that would be incurred as soon as you land in Canada are your responsibility, as your travel insurance becomes null and void, or it terminates as soon as you land back in your province of residence. So there can be additional expenses that are incurred and can accumulate very quickly. So this is why it's also very important to utilize the expertise and the knowledge of your brokers and the relationships that you do have with them. They're there to help you. Now, very important question, and one again that does vary amongst some carriers, is what is considered quarantine? What benefits are covered? How does automatic extension of coverage apply? And we have found that this varies across carrier to carrier. Now, it is incredibly difficult for insurance carriers to answer hypothetical situations or let you know exactly how other carriers are handling their coverages in a pandemic. However, I will let you know how Saskatchewan Blue Cross is specifically handling the nature of such inquiries or situations or claims. So when quarantine is covered. So if you were to fall ill on your trip with COVID-19, or you're prescribed a COVID-19 test, or even if you took a government required entry test and it comes back positive, an emergency medical care hospitalization claim is to result, automatic extension of coverage will apply, as well as some subsistence allowance. So what is that? Automatic extension of coverage will kick in automatically to extend throughout your entire hospitalization period and up to 24 hours following your discharge from hospital. So during the automatic extension of coverage period, you would be provided with subsistence allowance to allow for additional expenses you may incur as it relates to hospitalization, such as accommodations or meals in a commercial establishment and transportation. Now, what we have found when we look into other carriers in the marketplace is that it's not uncommon to find travel insurance carriers place a maximum number of days on the automatic extension of coverage. 17 days was one that was commonly found. So consider this. Given the average hospital stay when stricken ill with COVID-19 is about 22.8 days, even a few days of experiencing out-of-pocket hospitalization expenses can accumulate really quickly into the tens or thousands of dollars. Now, with Saskatchewan Blue Cross, we have no limitation imposed on the automatic extension of coverage. Your whole duration of hospitalization and additional expenses is covered, whether you're hospitalized for 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months. And then you would be covered for the additional 24 hours following your discharge from hospital. So on the contrary, it's important to note that if you do fall ill on your trip and you are prescribed a COVID-19 test, or again, whether this is the government issued test required for entry to board a plane and back to Canada, if it comes back positive and you have minor symptoms or you're asymptomatic, such as you're just required to sleep it off in your hotel room, there's no automatic extension of coverage or subsistence allowance that will apply. Those benefits have always been and will always be strictly reserved for hospitalization periods in the event of an emergency medical care benefit claim. Now, we cannot predict the future, nor can we predict the severity of symptoms we may experience if we are ill with the COVID-19 virus. So be sure you are planning for out-of-pocket expenses, as coverage, may vary on a case-by-case basis, as we just alluded to, as of the severity of your symptoms or your case. Now, those out-of-pocket expenses may include your accommodations, meals, transportation, and even the pre-entry required government boarding test, that PCR test to produce a negative test result. Government issued or those boarding required tests are known costs associated with travel and are not eligible for coverage. This is common in your travel insurance carriers and others within the marketplace, as travel insurance is intended to protect you from the unexpected, where an entry required test is now a known expense and would not be eligible for reimbursement. So it's really important to ask what your hotels, your accommodations are doing to support you in the event that you are quarantined. A lot of resorts are actually extending options to you. They will cover your quarantine stay. That would include meals that are serviceable and supplied via room service. You would have like no alcohol access, no access to pools, or would be confined to your building limitations. But certainly hotels and different accommodations are looking to see what they can do to help you in the event you are quarantined and have minor symptoms. Not to mention, many resorts and accommodations are providing testing services available right at the resorts or hotels. So make sure you're inquiring with your travel agent, where those tests are required, or if this is something that your resort services, even if it would be an out-of-pocket expense to yourself. And I just want to take a couple moments to provide a little bit more insight on the Saskatchewan Blue Cross travel plans that are available and spoken to within the benefits and how they apply today. We do have a variety of flexible trip options available. This includes individual trips for those single, one-off, and frequent travelers, for international coverage, and also we do have a specific product for those who are looking to travel just within Canada and staying a little bit closer to home these days. We also have annual travel plan options that are available, and these include flexible multi-trip plans ranging from 4 days up to 180 days, just depending on the type of traveler you are. Maybe you're a frequent jet setter who goes for weekend conferences or does business in another country, or maybe you're a student or snowbird staying for an extended duration. We do provide top-ups on other carriers, whether that be a credit card, group insurance, or whether you have an individual or a group plan that doesn't provide enough days for you and you're looking to travel for additional days. So lots of various options available as standalone options with Saskatchewan Blue Cross. And not to mention, you get the brand reputation of being the most #1 recognized travel brand in North America, and the incredible assistance we have through our 24/7 travel assistance provider. You'll find very comprehensive benefits and coverage within our travel plans, some of the most comprehensive in the Saskatchewan marketplace and Canada as a whole. If you have a history of medical emergencies or critical or chronic conditions, we do have health declarations, so we're able to extend coverage to a lot more individuals who have more of a substantial health history. To help leverage and manage the cost of traveling these days, we do have a variety of discounts available to snowbirds and their companions, grandchildren who will be traveling alongside or overlap with their grandparents' trip, families who are taking trips of shorter durations, and even deductibles. A variety of them are available, offering up to 35% in savings. So for more information on Saskatchewan Blue Cross travel plans specifically, I encourage you to get in touch with us by visiting our website at www.sk.bluecross.ca/travel. Our locally owned and operated contact center here in Saskatoon is available at 1-800-USE-BLUE. You can also visit us in person in our office in Saskatoon, located on 2nd Avenue. I hope you found the information shared within today's little webinar, very helpful, and provides you a bit more guidance on what you should be looking for in your travel insurance policy, or what you should be asking and looking into prior to booking your trip, purchasing your travel insurance, and immediately before departure. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at the contact information above, and I will see you in the next one. And take care, everyone.